Alrighty, folks. I'm so pumped yet again. Let me pop over here so you can see me. All right. Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. My name is VooDoo Val, and I'm going to be your host for today, and I think it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be pretty cool. Welcome, everyone, if you've been joining me for this set of challenges. I see so many familiar faces in the live chat. Also, welcome in if you are on YouTube or Behance watching the replay, checking us out in the future. It is good to have you all with us today. If you would like to participate in the challenge with me, please check out the description below. That is where you will find a link to the source files, the starter files that I have created for everyone to work with alongside me today. And there's also a link to where you can join our Discord. We have gotten so many awesome challenge submissions in the Discord for this round. I've been taking a look and you guys are really just blowing my mind and impressing me with all of the awesome stuff that you have been creating. So please, if you are going to participate, join the Discord, post your challenge entries in there so I can take a look. On Friday, in a couple of days here, we're going to have Community Day where I will pull it up and kind of show off some of your work on the stream. So if you'd like a shout out and like to be able to kind of showcase your work by then, definitely get those in. And without further ado, we are going to dive right into our challenge for today. So let me pop over here. Challenge 7 is custom brush patterns. And I actually, do you know what? So let me make sure that my window is actually going to capture properly. Hold on, let's pop right over here. Because I just realized I'm going to have to turn my Cintiq monitor on. Apologies. All right. So I'm going to pop over and pull up my Photoshop. I'm so sorry. I should have moved this over. But this is what your challenge file will look like right here, our challenge number 7. And it says create custom brushes that mimic wood carved stamp textures, apply them to black and white photos to give your image an organic handmade vibe, apply color to complete the design. So I've got a couple of interesting little patterns here that we can make into brushes and that we can use to kind of create an organic pattern. But I am going to make some shapes and things from scratch today. And we are going to take a photo and we are going to use that photo to kind of create something. If you've ever seen those wood stamps or the rubber stamps where things are carved out and then stamped onto paper, we're going to kind of go for that vibe today. So I'm going to go ahead and hide our info. And I may also create a new layer real quick with Control-Shift-In or Command-Shift-In if you are using a Mac. And I'm going to paint bucket in just a white background here so we can really take a look at the silhouettes of these shapes. Now, if I go ahead, let me open these. We have our small gouges and our large gouges here. And what these will do, if I can just, I'll go ahead and make a brush right quick for you folks. I've got this shape. Maybe we'll actually do, let's do the big gouges. I've got this shape, and this is going to be something that we use to really simulate a vibe like somebody has taken a tool and kind of carved it out of a material. And what I'm going to do with this is Control U to open hue and saturation. And I'm just going to crank the lightness down all the way to black on this so that we can create a perfect silhouette. And if I select this, which you can do just using your rectangular marquee tool, but what I recommend doing is holding Control or Command and just left clicking the layer, we can do a really nice accurate selection of everything that's on this layer so that we can define a brush preset. And I'm going to unhide or hide all of our background layers so that everything is transparent here. And with this selected, I'm going to come up and go to, let's see if we can grab this. I should, yes, go into edit and define a brush preset. And that allows us to create a brush based on this selection that we've made. Let me, it looks like, is somebody getting a little bit of buffer? Maybe that's just Sean. Alrighty. Welcome in, Bruce. It's good to see you. All right. So we have our brush defined here, and I'm going to call this large gouge test real quick. All right, so now if I go ahead and unhide this or hide this and Control D to deselect my selection, we'll turn our background back on. I will make a new layer so that I can play around with my brush, and you can see this is what we've got. So we've got this interesting brush here, and honestly, you know, it's a cool brush, but we're kind of just painting with the shape, and that's not really what we're going for here. It's not really responding in the way that I want. And what I'd like to do is make it a pattern of sorts so that I can add in to your window and select brush settings, or you can hit F5. Let me know. Hopefully everyone can still see me. I think I do see a little bit of buffer here and there. I'm gonna make sure no one is talking at me behind the scenes. It looks like all is good. Okay, cool. Thank you, Annika. I did get a little warning in my stream software. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank out the spacing a little bit because it creates this nice kind of uh, pattern where they all kind of fit in together. The only thing is that works if you're dragging left to right. They'll all kind of fit in close together, which is really nice. But what we want to do truly is to create this simulation that will allow me to do it in different directions too, because right now it's not really angled. So we've cranked the spacing up. I've put it to like 82%, but it might be different for you as you move forward and create your brush. But we can come into shape dynamics and we can do like, let's see. We can maybe mess with angle jitter, and we can say direction. So this is kind of cool. There we go. We can kind of do a little of that. I'm going to make my brush smaller with my bracket keys. And you can see now we have like this little trail almost so that everything is fitting together nice and neat. And I think that works pretty well. Now, when you create a brush and you start altering all of the different settings and things in your brush settings window, you might actually switch off of that brush and come back to it only to find that it no longer has all of those super cool settings that you've applied. So make sure that after you edit the settings and you've got your brush the way you want it, that you come up to this little hamburger menu and say new brush preset because you want to make sure that you save all of those. And it says you can capture the brush size and preset, but you want to make sure that you include tool settings. If you want to include color, if there's a color to your brush, you can definitely do that as well. But I'm just going to include tool settings. So now if I right click, I have my large gouge test 2 here, and I'm just going to drag this up. I've got so many brushes in here, but I'm going to drag it. And I'm going to place it where I usually get my brushes from. And now I've got my super cool patterny brush created. And then if I go to another brush, like something like this, like one of Kyle's halftones, we can do that. And then if I come back to it, this is still got that nice directional vibe going on. So now we've created a texture brush or pattern brush, and I might create one more, something that's a little more paper cutout zigzaggy. And so I'm going to do this one from true scratch here because I would like to show you how you folks can create a shape on your own. And what I'm just going to do is I would like to create a zigzag. I've just got my polygonal lasso tool here, something like this, and I am just tapping until I can create a kind of zigzag shape like so. And I'm just going to paint bucket some black into there. And what I want to do is I will duplicate this with Control or Command J, Control or Command T to enter free transform. And I am going to just drag this out like so, maybe add 2 here. And I'll select all of these and kind of bump this over. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate both of those. Control T, and I'm going to see if I can kind of stagger this so that they're a little connected, like so. Maybe just slightly disconnected, something like that. And then maybe I'll grab one more of these and kind of drop that down. Something like that, I think works pretty well. That's good enough for me. So now what I should be able to do is, let's go ahead and merge all of these, just selecting all of them and Control E to merge selected. And what I will do is do the same thing here. Let's go ahead and hide our background. And I'm going to Control or Command click the icon for our layer there. And let's go ahead and define this as a brush. Define brush preset, and I'll call this zigzag test. Boom. Let's hide that, Control or Command D to deselect, and let's create another layer so that we can kind of paint on this, because I really like to have something a little round and also something that is a little sharper. So we can do that, and again, it's just kind of painting with that shape, but we want it to stagger. So we'll come back into our brush presets. Let's go back to brush tip shape, space it out just a little bit. Let's see how that works. That works pretty cool. So if I decide I want to come in and kind of place a big kind of region or area with a lot of this texture, we can do that. And I think that kind of looks pretty cool. So we'll do that. And I don't think I'm going to put the directional on this. I think this is good enough for me here. I can even make it small and see what it looks like if we just decide that we want to do it like so. And I'm holding Shift just to kind of keep these on a straight line. So if I want to put like a big region of a patterned carved texture, I can do that like so. And I'm going to make sure that I define or save this brush preset as well. Let's go ahead and make a new preset, and we'll call that test 2. And then I'll come in here to my brush, and I will, let's go ahead and bring this up to where all my brushes are. By the way, to access my brushes, I realize this is something that I've used a lot, but I might not have told you folks about. If you are creating a brush or using brushes in general, and you want to open your brush palette, some of you folks I'm sure are going into your brush like your brush panel up here on your toolbar, but you can actually just right click. So yeah, you can just do a little right click with your mouse on the canvas as long as your brush tool is selected, and it will open a panel of all of your brushes, which you can even resize if you want, depending on how you like to organize your brushes. I like to have 3 across for mine personally, so that I can get a good scope of all of the brushes I have to choose from. And that is just kind of a quick tip on how to access your brushes easily. So now we've got a couple of brushes made, and we want to bring in a photo that we can start to kind of transform into a little bit of a wood carved piece. All right, something that looks like it's been stamped out and is like very graphic designy and illustrative, but we want to kind of create that out of a photo image. So I do have a photo for you, which I'm going to post the link in the chat today, so that you folks can really take a look at what we're working with, and then I'll show you. But this is our photo. Let me snag that link. I will also post this in the Discord after the challenge, but this is our link to our image, and the image looks like this. I have licensed it. It is a free file that you can use that I just got off of Adobe stock, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this right in here. This is a little cassette tape, and I really like this. It's a very simple image, but clearly a photograph, and we're going to transform this into like a stamp. So let's go ahead and hit enter, and the first thing I'm going to do is cut our stamp right out of our piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my object selection tool, and you can access this by pressing W on your keyboard, and if you don't see it, if you maybe select your magic wand or quick selection, you can always right click that file and open it up. And when you select the object selection tool, Photoshop will kind of auto detect what is in the on the canvas and say, okay, I think this is an object, and you can click it and say yes. and it'll give you a pretty darn clean selection of whatever it is that you've selected. And I will go ahead and just hit Control J or Command J, and that will duplicate my selection. So let's go ahead and hide that. So now we're just working with our cassette tape here, and I will select a brush just so we don't have our little highlight blinking there with our object selection tool. And I am going to Control T or Command T to free transform, and we're just going to make this a little bit larger. We'll go ahead and snap this into the center, and we'll work with this. Now, I want to, like I said, we want to take this from being a photograph on into a really cool graphic design sort of vibe that we can combine with our brushes. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up to Image Adjustments, and I'm just going to hit black and white real quick just to turn this to black and white. And you can alter this a little bit. There's a lot of red in this piece, so you can alter the reds if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and leave things as is because we're going to play with the levels and everything with this. But now we have our piece looking pretty darn cool. Something you can also do, which I didn't do before, is we can transform this into a smart object if we want to do that first, just so that as I add my black and white filter and hit OK, it's now here so I can always revert back. Another thing I will do is Control or Command L to open up our levels, and what I want to do is kind of bring these blacks out, pulling from the left, and then bring our midtones up and maybe even our highlights in, just to get like a very, very dramatic kind of juxtaposition between all of the different values here, which I think that looks pretty good. We'll hit OK, and then we are going to go into the old-fashioned filters for Photoshop. So I'm going to come up to Filter, Filter Gallery, and let me go ahead and pull this down here so you folks can see it. Let me make my window a little smaller. We're going to come into our filter gallery. We'll zoom out here a little bit. And what I want to use is our cutout edges, okay? So let's go ahead and mess with our number of levels. We can add a lot of different levels to this. I don't want that much detail in this. I think that if we pull our edge simplicity in, and maybe pull our levels down, we can get a lot of really good texture and detail in here, but I want it to be very much like just big shapes, really. And I do definitely I don't want to simplify it enough that you can't see the little teeth in the cassette tape there. So I think that'll work. We'll go ahead and hit OK. And then I might actually alter the levels even more with this. I think let's go ahead and Control or Command L again and kind of crank that up even more. I really, really, really want to get, like, kind of make some of this white and then pull those darks in as much as possible. Kind of playing with the highlights and everything here. Let's go ahead and do something like that, just to get, let's see like how close we can get to like a serious outline with this cassette tape. That actually looks pretty cool. I think that might work for us right there. That looks pretty neat. And it needs a little more texture, but that's where our brushes are going to come in. So we've got this now, and I think what I am going to do is kind of select, we can work on this with the white background, but do keep in mind it does have a white background behind it. And if we want to select just the blacks for this, what we could do is come in and say, let's go to Select, Color Range, and then in our color range here we can select, make sure we're selected on this this white here, like kind of select where there would be black on our piece, and hit OK. And now all of a sudden we've got all of this selected. Another thing we can do if we want to add a little more kind of background here, like a little border around, is we can double click and add a quick stroke very quickly, very thin black stroke to this. And go ahead and hit OK. And then I will just convert this into a smart object and do the same thing. So let's go ahead and go to Select and Color Range and make sure we hit our eyedropper where the blacks are, and I will hit OK. And now we kind of have this, so I could hit my mask And now if I come in here and hide this, we've got just like a cool, simple outline for our piece, which I think is actually really pretty neat. And now I'm going to come in with our brushes and kind of start stamping in some extra shadows that are a little more stylized. And you can choose, you know, depending on what kind of shape you used for your brush, what kind of vibe you're going to go for your project. I kind of wanted, like I said, the zigzaggy kind of pattern, so I'll make a new layer here. And what I'm going to do is with this brush on another layer, I am going to come through and just start stamping in some texture. And then we're going to start removing pieces too. So if this goes out of the lines, do not worry. That is perfectly fine. I want to just start adding some in here, and I'm just holding shift so I can go around the edges. I think I'll even stamp in some over here. And you can, I highly recommend it, like using your shift, like holding shift to really add this stuff in so that you kind of have it aligned properly. We can throw some here. We could throw some in the corner here, maybe like so. And then kind of come in and start removing pieces. So I think I even will stamp in some underneath here just to add a little more depth and get a little more detail going in our piece, like so. I think that's going to work. And then I'm going to come in with my polygonal lasso tool, which you can select by pressing L. And if it selects your regular lasso tool, just right click and select that. And I'm going to come in and select little portions of this to really remove. Boom. Let's go ahead and just start, if I can hover over it, there we go. And I'm going to hit Control X just to start cutting pieces out of this. I want it to be jagged to kind of match our vibe we're going for this piece. So I'm just cutting out giant chunks of it around the edges of some of the details that we've got for our cassette cutout here. So we can kind of go for something like this. Let's go ahead and cut this out. Oops. And you can kind of do that as you see fit. I think this is kind of a fun way to do things, especially depending on the kind of texture that you've got going. For those of you who have like more of a round kind of vibe, I suggest maybe using the regular lasso tool to select out some kind of more curvy pieces. Let's go ahead and select this and just take this straight off right here. I think that would be cool. And I want to make sure that we're not getting too far down on our time. I think we got a few minutes. So it just adds really a lot more texture to the piece, which I think is fun. So let's go ahead and do something like that. Boom, let's cut it. And I'm just hitting Control or Command X. Command if you're working on a Mac. I'm also going to kind of come in here and select like a big chunk from here to really get this sharp edge right there. Let's go ahead and kind of cut that out. And it just kind of starts adding a really interesting vibe to our piece. So we can go like that. Let's get this little rounded piece. We can also come in, I think I want to come in from the side here and do a little bit of this. And I'm just clicking with my mouse, kind of cut that out. And I think it starts to add kind of an interesting vibe here. It would even be cool if we wanted to add a bigger piece. We could actually add kind of a darkened area here if we wanted to add some text and just fill this back in with black. Could even be interesting if we wanted to go ahead and fill that in. Because then if I Control D to deselect, then I can kind of write something on our piece here. And I think we're coming to the end of our time here, but I do want to kind of show you one that I have done ahead of time and kind of change the color for. Let me open this up and select this. I'm going to come in and just drag and drop this in right here. So I kind of made it white and I selected just with my polygonal lasso tool like a little chunky version of the Adobe logo, and then I also added kind of like an Adobe mix title here. And I actually will share with you the font that I use. This is the F Folk font, which is a free font on Adobe Fonts. So I will throw that into the chat. I will also share that in the Discord, but I feel like you can get a lot of really fun, funky kind of vibes going here and make it look like, you know, from a photo, if we can bring our old photo up here, from a photo into something that is really cool, graphic, kind of grungy with a lot of personality. And I can't wait to see what you folks do, whether you are choosing objects, photographs of objects to use, or maybe portraits of people to use for this sort of thing. Kind of creating your own stamp brushes and designing an interesting little graphic. I think it should be a good time. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you folks post in the Discord. Thank you all for joining me. Stay tuned for more daily creative challenges, and I will be back tomorrow morning with another challenge for Photoshop. So I'll see you then, folks. Adios, everyone.